everything about time management. That's the PDF you sent.
Sound good.
I'm so excited to dig into this. I think there are going to be some pretty fascinating things to uncover about how our understanding of time has been shaped by things like historical events and cultural differences.
Right, and even like language itself.
Yeah, exactly. So much to explore.
Let's dive right in then.
Well, to pick things off, let's go way back in time and look at the historical perspective. What about World War II? The PDF talks about its impact on Germany and Japan.
Right, well, in Germany, the trauma of the war really led to this big shift in mindset. It became all about living in the present moment.
Makes sense. I mean, the future probably felt so uncertain after all that devastation.
Exactly. It was like, okay, we need to focus on the here and now.
What about Japan, though? I read something about their focus on efficiency.
Yeah, so for Japan, the atomic bombings actually ended up intensifying this emphasis on efficiency and punctuality that was already kind of there. But it was like time suddenly became this incredibly valuable resource, almost a sense of urgency around it.
It's amazing how a single event can completely reshape a nation's relationship with time.
It really is.
Now, the PDF also mentions China's Cultural Revolution and its effects on how people viewed time.
Oh, absolutely. During that period, the focus was very much on collective good over individual needs. So personal time kind of took a back seat.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much about your own individual schedule anymore, but more about contributing to this shared timeline.
Interesting. It really highlights how our whole concept of time is shaped by the values of our culture.
For sure.
There was one part in the PDF that I found especially fascinating. The comparison of phrases like killing time in English versus the way some indigenous languages talk about time, which is way more focused on the present moment.
Oh, yeah. Language is so powerful. The words we use really do reflect these underlying assumptions. Like you said, killing time kind of implies that time is a commodity that we can just use up. Whereas in some other languages, there might not even be distinct past or future tenses.
Wow. It makes you realize how much our language can actually shape our perception of something as fundamental as time.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit now. The PDF talks about this evolution of time management from being just a business concept to something much broader that encompasses personal well-being too.
Yeah, it's a fascinating shift.
So it started out being all about maximizing output in the workplace, right?
Right, exactly. It was all about efficiency and productivity.
But now it's become more about creating a life that feels balanced and fulfilling.
Exactly. It's about making sure you have time for yourself, your relationships, things that bring you joy, not just work, work, work.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Now, the PDF lays out 4 key principles of time management: prioritization, effective planning, scheduling, and organization.
Right. And these aren't just separate concepts either. They're all interconnected.
It's a system, not just a bunch of random tips.
Exactly. It's about understanding how these principles work together.
So starting with prioritization, what is that all about?
Well, it's about figuring out what truly matters to you, your values, your goals, and then using that to inform your planning.
Okay, so once you know what your priorities are, that's when you move on to planning.
Exactly. Planning is all about figuring out the steps you need to take to achieve those priorities.
And then scheduling comes in to actually allocate dedicated time for those tasks.
Right. And then organization is all about making sure you have systems in place to keep everything running smoothly. So you're not wasting time searching for things or feeling overwhelmed.
Gotcha. So it's like each principle builds on the one before it.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that this is an ongoing process. You need to constantly be evaluating and adapting because life throws curveballs. Things change.
You're telling me, so what works this week might need some tweaking next week.
Right. Flexibility and continuous refinement are key.
I like that. Makes sense. All right, let's talk about some specific techniques. I'm super curious about the Pomodoro technique, mainly because of that funny name.
Oh, yeah, it's a catchy name.
Yeah.
But the technique itself is really effective. It's based on the idea of working in focused bursts with regular breaks to prevent burnout.
Okay, so tell me more. How does it actually work?
Basically, you work on a task for 25 minutes straight and then take a short break, and you repeat that cycle.
So it's like working with your brain's natural rhythms instead of against them.
Right. And those regular breaks help you to stay refreshed and focused.
I'm definitely have to try that one out. Now, the PDF also talks about Pareto analysis, which sounds a little more analytical.
It is, but it's actually a really simple principle. It's the 80-20 rule, you know?
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
Basically, it means that 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts.
Interesting. So it's about figuring out which actions are actually having the biggest impact.
Exactly. It's about prioritizing those high-impact tasks and not getting bogged down in the things that don't really move the needle.
Sounds like a great way to cut through the noise when you're feeling overwhelmed.
It definitely is. especially when you have a really long to-do list.
Mm.
Pareto analysis can help you zero in on what really matters.
Okay, now I know a lot of our listeners struggle with procrastination, so I'm excited to hear what the PDF has to say about that.
One really helpful technique is the 10-minute rule.
Ooh, that sounds intriguing.
It's all about breaking down that initial resistance to getting started. You know how sometimes you just feel so overwhelmed by a task that you keep putting it off?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
So the 10-minute rule says just commit to working on the task for 10 minutes. That's it.
It's like tricking your brain into getting started, right?
Exactly. And you know what often happens? Once you actually get started, you find yourself getting into a flow, and you end up working on it for way longer than 10 minutes.
Yeah, I can definitely see that happening. But even if you only do those 10 minutes, it's still better than nothing, right?
Exactly. It's all about making progress one small step at a time.
I love that. All right, let's dive into the world of time management tools. The PDF has a whole section on this, and I know a lot of people are super interested in apps and software.
Oh, yeah. There are so many great tools out there. It's like having a whole toolbox at your disposal.
But how do you know which tools are right for you? There's so many options.
It really depends on your individual needs and your work style. Some people love visual planning, so a digital calendar with color-coded tasks is perfect for them. Others prefer a more list-based approach, so they might use a task management app.
And what about those of us who are data nerds? I know a lot of people love tracking their time to see where it all goes.
Yeah, time tracking software can be really helpful for that. It can show you those sneaky time-wasting black holes that you might not even be aware of.
Like how much time I spend scrolling on social media.
Exactly. And once you see where your time is actually going, you can start to make more conscious choices about how you spend it.
Makes sense. Now, the PDF also has a section on resource recommendations. I'm always looking for new books and courses to check out.
Me too. There are some great ones out there.
What are some of your favorites?
Well, Getting Things Done by David Allen is a classic for a reason. It's a really comprehensive system for managing your tasks and getting to a state of clear-headed calm.
Okay, I've heard of that one. Definitely adding it to my reading list.
Yeah.
What about online courses? Any recommendations?
LinkedIn Learning has a ton of amazing time management courses. They cover everything from the basics to more advanced strategies.
Perfect for people who are always on the go. You can learn at your own pace and fit it into your schedule.
Exactly. And speaking of the mind-time connection, that's something else the PDF talks about that I think is really important.
Oh, yeah, the cognitive and emotional side of things.
Right, because it's not just about having the right tools and techniques.
Mm-hmm.
It's also about understanding how our own thoughts and feelings can affect our relationship with time.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What are some of the key insights from the PDF?
Well, one thing it talks about is cognitive reappraisal, which is basically about reframing negative thoughts into more constructive ones.
Can you give me an example?
Sure, like let's say you have a really challenging deadline that's stressing you out. Instead of viewing it as a threat, you could try to reframe it as an opportunity for growth.
So it's about flipping the script on those negative thoughts that can sabotage our productivity.
Exactly. And when you change your thoughts, you can actually change your emotional response too.
Makes sense. And I know mindfulness is a big part of this too.
Right. Mindfulness is all about being present in the moment without judgment. It helps you to notice when you're getting distracted by thoughts or feelings, but without getting carried away by them.
So it's like training your mind to stay focused.
Exactly.
But we're all human rights. Those emotional triggers can still get the best of us sometimes.
Of course. And that's where self-awareness comes in. Notice what triggers those negative emotions that might be affecting your time management. Is it fear of failure? Perfectionism? Once you know what your triggers are, you can start to develop strategies for dealing with them.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like becoming a detective of your own mind. And I'm really intrigued by this section in the PDF about cultural differences and how people perceive time.
Oh, yeah, it's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one right way to approach time. Different cultures have different norms and values.
Right, like the PDF contrasts the strict timekeeping of North American cultures with the more relaxed approach in some Latin American and African cultures.
Right, and it's so important to be aware of those differences, especially in today's globalized world.
Imagine the potential for misunderstandings. If someone from a culture that's all about punctuality is working with someone who's more laid back about time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It could lead to a lot of frustration. So understanding those cultural nuances can really help to create a more harmonious and productive work environment.
I love that the PDF does a great job of bringing all of these different perspectives together.
It does. It really emphasizes that time management isn't just about one thing. It's about understanding the professional, personal, and cultural factors that all play a role.
Absolutely, it's a holistic view.
Right. And speaking of challenges, let's not forget about all the obstacles that can get in the way of effective time management.
Oh, yeah. We got to talk about the tough stuff.
Right. Things like procrastination distractions, overwhelm, burnout, lack of clear goals, balancing multiple commitments. These are all things that we all struggle with at some point.
That's like a battle.
It can be,
Yeah.
but the good news is that the PDF equips us with the knowledge and strategies to overcome these challenges.
Okay, so let's start with procrastination.
Yeah.
What are some tips for tackling that beast?
Well, the first step is to really understand why you're procrastinating. Are you avoiding a task because it feels overwhelming? Or are you afraid of failing? Once you know the root cause, you can start to address it.
So it's about digging a little deeper to figure out those emotional blocks that might be holding you back.
Exactly. And what about distractions? Those can be so sneaky and
Oh
insidious.
my gosh, tell me about it. My phone is like a magnet for my attention.
Right. So the key is to minimize both external and internal distractions as much as possible.
So that means things like silencing notifications, finding a quiet workspace, maybe even investing in some noise-canceling headphones.
Exactly. Create an environment that's conducive to focus.
Love it. Now, what about overwhelm and burnout? Those are two that I know all too well.
Yeah, they're definitely common challenges.
Mm-hmm.
The PDF emphasizes the importance of setting realistic goals. Don't try to do everything at once.
Okay, so break down those big tasks into smaller, more manageable chunks.
Exactly. And make sure you're prioritizing self-care, taking breaks, getting enough sleep, eating well. All of those things help to prevent burnout.
So it's about pacing ourselves, recognizing that we're not superhuman.
Right. Give yourself permission to rest and recharge.
Okay. And what about the challenge of balancing multiple commitments? That's something a lot of people struggle with.
Absolutely. And that's where having clear goals and priorities becomes even more important. It's about making conscious choices about how you spend your time and making sure those choices align with your values.
So it's about learning to say no to the things that aren't truly important to you.
Exactly. It's about protecting your time and energy for the things that matter most.
I love that. Now, the PDF doesn't just focus on the challenges. It also talks about all the amazing rewards of effective time management.
Right. And it's not just about getting more done.
It's about feeling more in control of your life, less stressed.
Exactly. And it can lead to better relationships, more time for the things you love, and a greater sense of overall well-being.
So it's about creating a life that feels more fulfilling and aligned with your true aspirations.
Absolutely. It's about living a life that you love.
That's a great way to put it.
And as we wrap up this part of our deep dive into time management, I think it's important to remember that this is a journey, not a destination.
Oh, I like that. Tell me more.
It's about continuous learning, experimentation, and adaptation. The key is to find what works best for you and embrace the strategies and tools that resonate with your individual style and needs.
So it's not about finding that one perfect system.
No, it's about creating a personalized approach that evolves with you as you grow and change.
Love it. It's about empowering yourself to take control of your time and your life.
Exactly.
Well said. This has been such a fascinating conversation so far. I'm already feeling inspired to level up my own time management
Me
game.
too. And I can't wait to dive into the rest of this PDF with you.
I'm excited for what's next.
Me too.
Before we go, I'm curious. What's one piece of advice you would give to our listeners who are eager to improve their relationship with time?
That's a great question. I think if I had to choose just one thing to say, it would be start small.
Start small. I like that.
Yeah, don't try to overhaul your entire life overnight.
That's good advice. It's easy to get overwhelmed.
Right. So instead, just pick one small change you can make today.
Yeah.
Maybe it's setting aside 10 minutes each morning to plan your day, or committing to using the Pomodoro technique for just one task.
Love it. Small steps building those time management muscles gradually.
Exactly. And remember, it's about progress over perfection.
Yeah.
There will be days when you feel like you're rocking it, and other days when time just seems to slip away.
Yeah.
Be kind to yourself. Learn from those experiences and keep refining your approach.
It's a journey, not a race.
Exactly.
Well said. On that note, I want to thank you so much for being our guide through this exploration of time management. Your insights have been incredibly helpful.
It's been my pleasure. I'm so glad we could share these strategies to help people make the most of their time.
And to all of our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of time management. We hope you've gained some valuable tools and strategies to create a more productive and fulfilling life.
Absolutely.
And remember, even small changes can have a big impact. So start today and see what happens when you reclaim your time.
That's right.
Until next time, happy time traveling.
See you then. The PDF breaks these tools down into a few main categories: time tracking software, task management apps, and digital planning tools.
Time tracking software. I mean, it's kind of like having a personal assistant in your pocket, keeping tabs on everything you do.
It is.
Mhm.
But it's not just about tracking, it's about understanding where your time actually goes.
Right. So you can make smarter decisions about how you use it.
Exactly. And with task management apps, it's all about breaking those big projects down into smaller, more manageable steps.
Which is key for not feeling overwhelmed.
Definitely. And then digital planning tools. Those are great for people who are visual.
I love my color-coded calendar. It just makes everything so much clearer.
See, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
With all these different tools, the key is to find the ones that really work for you, your own individual style.
Right. What works for one person might not work for another.
Exactly. It's all about finding the right fit.
Okay, now I want to talk about the resource recommendations section. Always love a good book or course recommendation.
Me too. There's so much good stuff out there.
So what are some of the books and courses that have really stood out to you?
Well, one book that I always recommend is Getting Things Done by David Allen.
I've heard of that one. What's it all about?
It's a system for capturing, organizing, and prioritizing all your tasks. It's about getting everything out of your head and into a system so you can actually relax and focus.
Sounds like something I definitely need.
It's a classic for a reason. And for online courses, I'm a big fan of LinkedIn Learning.
Oh yeah, LinkedIn Learning is great. They have such a wide variety of courses.
They do. And they have some really excellent time management courses. Everything from the fundamentals to more advanced strategies.
Perfect for people who want to learn at their own pace.
Exactly.
Okay. Let's shift gears now and talk about something that I think is often overlooked. The mind-time connection.
Oh, that's a big one. It's so important.
It is, because it's not just about having the right tools and techniques. It's also about understanding how our own thoughts and feelings can impact our relationship with time.
Exactly.
So how do we start to make that connection? What are some things we can do?
Well, the PDF talks about something called cognitive reappraisal, which is basically about intentionally reframing our negative thoughts.
Okay, give me an example.
Sure. Let's say you have a deadline looming and you're feeling super stressed about it.
Been there.
Right. So instead of thinking, I'm never going to get this done, you could try to reframe it as, this is a great opportunity for me to learn and grow.
I love that. It's about shifting your perspective to see the positive side of things.
Exactly. And that can have a huge impact on your motivation and your productivity.
And I know mindfulness plays a role in this too, right?
Absolutely. Mindfulness is all about being present in the moment without judgment. It helps you to notice those negative thoughts and feelings, but without getting swept away by them.
So it's like training your mind to stay focused on the task at hand.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the more you practice mindfulness, the easier it becomes to catch yourself when you're starting to spiral into those negative thought patterns.
Okay, so we're talking about being aware of our thoughts and our feelings. But what about cultural differences? I know that different cultures have very different perceptions of time.
Oh, yeah. That's such a fascinating topic.
It is. The PDF mentions that North American cultures tend to have a very strict view of time,
Right. It's all about punctuality and schedules.
whereas in some other cultures, like in Latin America or Africa, time is viewed more fluidly.
Exactly. And it's so important to be aware of those differences, especially in today's globalized world, where we're often working with people from all different backgrounds.
Imagine the potential for misunderstandings if someone from a very time-strict culture is working with someone who has a more relaxed view of time.
Yeah, it could definitely lead to some friction.
So understanding those cultural nuances is key to creating a more harmonious and productive work environment.
Absolutely. It's all about respect and communication.
The PDF provides such a well-rounded view of time management, looking at it from all these different angles, the professional, the personal, the cultural.
It really does. And I
And-
think that's what makes it so valuable.
Yeah.
Because time management isn't just about one thing. It's about understanding all these different factors that come
Yeah.
into play.
Okay, so we've talked about the principles, the techniques, the tools. But let's be real, there are always challenges when it comes to time management.
Always. Procrastination, distractions, overwhelm, burnout. We all face these obstacles at some point.
So let's tackle them one by one, starting with procrastination. Any tips for overcoming that age-old enemy?
Well, as we talked about before, the first step is to really understand why you're procrastinating. What's the root cause? Is it fear of failure? Is the task just too overwhelming? Once you know what you're dealing with, you can start to develop strategies for overcoming it.
So it's about getting curious about your own procrastination habits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And don't beat yourself up about it. We all do it. It's human nature.
Okay, now what about distractions? I feel like those are everywhere these days.
They are our phones, our computers, Social media, it's a constant battle.
So how do we win that battle?
Well, the PDF talks about minimizing both external and internal distractions.
So external distractions would be things like turning off notifications, finding a quiet workspace.
Right. Creating an environment that's conducive to focus.
And internal distractions would be things like our own thoughts and worries.
Exactly. And that's where mindfulness can be really helpful. It helps you to become more aware of those distractions and to gently redirect your attention back to the task at hand.
Love that. Okay, now let's talk about overwhelm and burnout. Two of my least favorite things.
I hear you. Those are big challenges for a lot of people. And the PDF has some great advice for dealing with them.
Like what?
Well, first of all, it's important to set realistic goals. Don't try to do too much at once.
Easier said than done. I tend to be a bit of an overachiever.
I get it. But it's so important to pace yourself. Break those big projects down into smaller, more manageable chunks.
Okay, so baby steps.
Exactly. And don't forget about self-care. Make sure you're taking breaks, getting enough sleep, eating healthy foods. All of that is crucial for preventing burnout.
So it's about taking care of your physical and mental well-being.
Exactly. You can't pour from an empty cup.
I love that.
Okay.
Okay, last challenge. Balancing multiple commitments. Work, family, friends, hobbies, side hustles. It can be a lot to juggle.
It definitely can. And this is where having clear goals and priorities becomes even more crucial.
Right, because you can't say yes to everything.
Exactly. You have to make choices, and those choices should be based on what truly matters to you. Your values, your goals, your aspirations.
So it's about being intentional with your time and energy.
Exactly. And it's about being okay with saying no to the things that don't align with your priorities.
I love that. It's about creating a life that feels authentic and fulfilling.
That's the goal.
Now, I want to shift gears and talk about the rewards of effective time management, because it's not just about checking things off a to-do list, right?
No, not at all. It's about so much more than that.
It's about feeling more in control of your life, less stressed, more productive.
Right. And it can lead to so many positive outcomes, like better relationships, more time for hobbies, greater creativity, even improved physical health.
Wow, so it's not just about getting more done, it's about living a better life.
Exactly.
I love that. This has been such an eye-opening conversation. I'm already feeling inspired to up my time management game. And I can't wait to dig into the rest of this PDF and see what other gems we can uncover.
Hey there.
Before we wrap up this deep dive, I'm curious, what one piece of advice would you give to our listeners who are eager to improve their relationship with time?
That's a great question. If I had to choose just one takeaway, it would be this. Start small. Don't try to overhaul your entire life overnight.
Start small. I like that.
Yeah, instead just choose one small change you can make today. Maybe it's setting aside 10 minutes each morning to plan your day, or committing to using the Pomodoro technique for just one task.
I love that. Small steps, building those time management muscles gradually.
Exactly. And remember, it's about progress over perfection. There will be days when you feel like you're winning the time management game and other days when time just seems to slip through your fingers. Be kind to yourself. Learn from those experiences and keep refining your approach.
It's a journey, not a race.
Exactly.
Well said. On that note, I want to thank you so much for being our guide through this exploration of time management techniques. Your insights have been incredibly helpful.
It's been my pleasure. Time is our most precious resource, and I'm so glad we could share these strategies to help our listeners make the most of it.
And to all of our listeners out there, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of time management. We hope you've gained some valuable insights and practical tools to create a more productive and fulfilling life. Remember, even small changes can have a ripple effect. So start today and watch as you reclaim your time and unlock your true potential.